Good morning, committee. This is the Monday morning committee of the House Appropriations Committee, and it is already September 21st, which I just find unbelievable how this month is flying by. We first have on our agenda, we have Sarah Truckle from DCF. We have Sean Brown, the Commissioner of DCF, and we also have Sarah Clark, the CFO for AHS with us today. Our committee wanted to hear a little more about the status of funding for the parent-child centers, and I understand there's some work that is being done, and many people have reached out to different members in the committee regarding getting some support and what that support is going to look like through DCF. And the amount that we passed out of the House, the 3.9 million back in June, later morphed into a larger $12 million package that certain funding priorities was going to be taken from. And so we just need an update of where we are on that and plans for some support if needed to the parent-child centers. So welcome, Commissioner Brown and Sarah, thank you for joining us today. So I think there's been lots of conversations, lots of emails going around. And Sean, do you want to start, or Kimberly, did you have anything you wanted to add before the commissioner jumped in?
No, I'll save a couple questions for later, but thank you, Madam Chair.
So Commissioner Brown, welcome. And do you just want to give us an overview of where we are and what you see the issues are and how we can possibly resolve them?
Sure. Good morning. And for the record, this is Sean Brown, the Commissioner for the Department for Children and Families. Yes, so the legislature did allocate $12 million for 3 different areas for providers in response to COVID. And one area was for parent-child centers for their ongoing operations. And when we did an application process to award those funds, and we worked with the state's consultants and our attorneys to identify what would be or would not be allowable expenses that were submitted. And based on that, we started to move forward and make awards. And then some concern was raised after some testimony in House Human Services regarding whether some of the decisions being made of what was eligible or not for reimbursement based on other areas of what's happening in state government and other areas with the COVID relief funds. We stepped back and met with our consultant and reviewed some of the expenses that the parent-child center submitted to reevaluate whether they were reimbursable. And so that work went on through last week and through Friday. I can share with the committee that the parent-child centers that submitted actual costs and expenses up through August, and then future expected costs through from August into October. Combined, those totaled almost $967,000. We did notify the parent-child centers of their awards for funds up through August. And then we were going to notify them separately of their future anticipated expenses. I think combined, we will be able to reimburse almost all of that $967,000 to the parent-child centers. Several of them submitted appeals, which are a part of the process, and we're reviewing those now, and we believe that we'll be able to resolve those. And then also we'll be sending out notices of their anticipated expenses, fully funding them as requested.
So my first question is the anticipated expenses from August through October, but what about October through December? Will those be included, or?
Well, most of those expenses that they submitted up through anticipated were for purchases of like appliances and then some building capital expenses. And so while those projects will be ongoing, we just need them to submit the reimbursements through the end of October so we can get those funds out the door and issued and spent before the end of December. because those
Okay.
capital projects need to be online before the end of December to be reimbursable. So we just need, it's a very quick time frame.
Yep, thank you. I now understand that piece of it.
Yeah.
Okay, are there questions? Do we have Mary Beth Redmond? Welcome, Mary Beth. You're here from the Human Services Committee. So if you have questions or need clarification, make sure that, just raise your blue hand or flag me down somehow. Are there any thoughts for the commissioner at this point? The concern was that the initial award that they received, Sean, was it 130,000?
Approximately, yes.
130,000 out of almost $1 million worth of requests. But we've heard from the commissioner that it appears that through the appeals process and understanding some of the more detail in what the asks are, that they hope to get nearly the full amount out the door. Mary.
Thank you. So I understand what has happened to date. I'm thinking that if I were a parent-child center and had been turned down, that I might not now apply for the same thing that maybe is now eligible under kind of the current understanding. So are you letting the PCCs know of, that there is an opportunity that things that had been turned down are now eligible?
Yeah, we're notifying the PCCs this week that, we had given indication in the initial award letters for the incurred expenses through August that much of the capital expenses under the initial guidance we received would not be eligible. And so we're sending out notices hopefully today for those anticipated expenses, that those are now eligible and they can expend those funds and submit the reimbursement later this fall for those costs.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Diane and then Marty?
Thank you. I thought I'd be in a long queue. Thank you. Thank you for coming in this morning. So it's one of the reasons why we're here today is because the parent-child centers are such a critical support system within, across the state, and especially in today's environment. I'm wondering, Commissioner, is the agency working with with the parent-child centers to get a deeper understanding of, what we've funded here, what you're going to be able to fund here is also just a tip of the iceberg of a narrow scope of what they actually have needs for, and underlining all of that, there is a lot more going on. I know that it's a lot of money and I'm very pleased to hear that this is going to get out the door, but are we at the same time, while you're working with them, getting a better and deeper understanding of the other issues that are not being addressed because COVID is so narrow? Does that make sense?
Yes, we, in working with them, we have begun that conversation with them and asked if there are additional losses or expenses that they incurred that might or not have been initially looked at here. So we get an understanding of what those look like, what those losses or expenses look like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Marty?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that you indicated that certainly that now it has been judged that some of the capital expenses that people were asking for, such as appliances and that sort of thing, would now be eligible. But indeed, instead, the PCCs still need to expend those funds and then ask for reimbursement. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is a reimbursement.
But will this letter that you're...
But we are letting them know that
Okay.
Based on what they submitted for information, if they make those expenses, they will be reimbursement. And we're committed to turning those payments around as quickly as possible when they submit for their reimbursement, once they make those purchases.
Okay. Okay, I understand from a fiscal point of view, it's necessary that you wait for justification of the expense before you reimburse it. But the concern, of course, was getting the capital funds in order to do some of those things first. But if you can assure them that those requests are legitimate and will be reimbursed promptly, I think they will be able to manage. Thank you for making those changes or clarifying those issues.
Marty, Mary Beth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Feltus really began kind of my initial inquiry, and that is how quickly, as far as reimbursements, are we talking like days? I mean, one of the things that I heard overwhelmingly was the time frame, and knowing that you are approved to spend this quickly. Do you feel like you'll be able to turn those around within days? I mean, is that the hope?
I'm not the financial person, so I'll defer to our Chief Financial Officer, Sarah Truckle, to give you a little background of how the agency and the department processes its invoices and makes payments.
Happy to do so. So Sarah Truckle, DCF Financial Director for the record. So this award will be issued on based on their grant applications for their anticipated expenses. So it'll have an amount, and then it'll be paid on a reimbursement-based basis based on their invoices, similar to how we pay other grants that we have within the department, but also grants that we have within the parent-child centers. We typically process payments within a couple weeks. That's our typical turnaround. So we have to receive an approval from the grant manager, and then the accounts payable team processes. We haven't seen a significant delay in any invoices being processed with COVID, and would anticipate that this would take the same payment process. So for some context, with our childcare stabilization payments, we were issuing payments within 10 to 14 days of those invoices being submitted.
Thank you. And just one more question relative to, first, I just want to say I'm really grateful for this review and this change in decision, and wondering if in your consultations with the consultant, if in the end there will be any expenses that it was deemed you cannot pay. Like, is there anything left out of this that you definitively determine, no, we can't cover that?
At this point, we hope to cover the vast overwhelming majority, and my goal is to try to cover it all. So at this point, we don't anticipate there being a huge discrepancy from what they've requested to what we're reimbursing at this point. We're continuing on those areas under where they've appealed the initial grants, where we need some additional information. We're hoping that additional information allows us to move forward and make payments.
Thank you.
Kimberly?
Yeah, thank you. So if folks are done with the PCCs, I just want to echo thanks to everyone for raising the issues and for working on them. And I know it's been a quick turnaround. The shift that I want to make now is looking at that $12 million package. And my recollection is that had some summer grants, summer camps in it. It had the PCCs, but it also had the CIS funding. And I would welcome any update on what has happened in terms of those dollars.
Yes. We are in the process of awarding those funds out. There was only a few costs out of the amount that they requested. I don't have that exact number, but there were some costs that were requested through the CIS that we believe were mistakenly applied for by a parent-child center and should have been included in their PCC request, because the CIS providing grant was for the provision of telehealth and costs and expenses there. And so we've covered almost 100% of those costs, and we're looking at moving the few expenses there that are not tied to telehealth that were submitted by a PCC and putting those in and making sure that following up with that provider to make sure they understood that that was for telehealth, and if those were other costs that were reimbursable through the other means, that we will move them over to that if that works for them, that provider.
Great, thank you. And my follow-up question, and this sort of highlights it, as I was looking through Act 136, and I noticed there were two reporting provisions. One was sort of I think it was October 1, and I forget the second date, and it applied to the whole bill. But in terms of a January 15th report back of where all the dollars land ultimately, that seemed to only apply to the healthcare stabilization section. And just based on our back and forth right now, I'm thinking that it might be helpful to have that same sort of report back in January that would just let us know where the dollars landed within that $12 million package versus only the healthcare stabilization. And in part, the reason I raise it, I think that will better inform us when we head into fiscal year 22, knowing where resources from the prior year, including CRF resources, have landed. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. You know, given the intent of the legislature, it was our belief, and it is our belief, that we want to provide an update or a report to the legislature where we spent these funds, as well as the healthcare stabilization funds.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kimberly, for bringing up that extension, you know, the extended report back so that we get the full view. If this is being added to the budget, Kimberly, and I think it would be helpful to DCF that it's not one of those formal report backs where they have to do all the jargon in a big, long report, but they actually just come in and they report back on the informations to the committees of jurisdiction. And so Ledge Council has that type of language that makes it, we get all the information, but it's an informal report and not one of the longer, more time-consuming reports. Would that be helpful, John? That type of report?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're happy to report back in any mechanism that the legislature would like to receive it. So we're more than happy to come in and provide additional testimony in January on the final result of these funds and how they were spent.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, just because, as you highlighted earlier, Madam Chair, we started out with some allocations in the House that were far more specific. And because everything was melded, I think there's been some sentiment on the part of members of trying to follow through where things landed in greater detail than just a $12 million overview. So
and
thank you.
Kimberly, you will work on that language.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments or thoughts for any of the group that's here with us today from DCF? Dave?
Yes, thank you. I had, Madam Chair, my questions are not directly related to CRF, but I thought it looks like we have enough time. Just two quick questions, if I may, related to the child world.
Absolutely.
Sean, I understand that the director of CIS is leaving. Do you plan to refill that position? Assuming you're granted permission?
Yes, we do plan to fill that position.
Great. Thank you. And could you briefly, I've had a couple of constituents contact me about the SAG process, special accommodation grants. Could you just briefly describe to us how that works, please?
I'm going to defer to Sarah Truckle to explain those in a little more detail. She has a little bit deeper knowledge of those than I do.
Thank you.
Happy to give some high-level context. So Sarah Truckle, Financial Director for the record. The special accommodation grants have an application process which the provider of a child care program may apply for funds on behalf of an eligible child. That application process is done in consultation with the child's parent or guardian and is for a specific purpose, most often for one-on-one assistance during a childcare setting to support that child during the time that they receive care in the childcare setting, and to support their learning. We review those applications based on the funding that we have available and make awards based on a set amount of time frame. So sometimes those awards are made for 3 months, sometimes they're made for 6 months. And then the provider receives funds to typically hire that additional person in the classroom to work with that child. Is that answer your question, Representative Yakubov?
So it's a grant process. Yes, it's not a bid process. It's Sean has these kinds of needs and we'd like X amount of dollars to address them. So it's a grant.
It's an application process. Yes. So it's still, it's an application process of which there's criteria that's reviewed to determine the needs, the amount of funding available, and then an ultimate allocation. So they do go through a process which is reviewed by the Children's Integrated Service Program Manager, and I do believe the director also reviews each one of those applications to determine the appropriate award and level of need based on the application criteria.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that.
Happy to help.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any final questions that anyone would like to ask? Mary Beth, anything else from your committee that you'd like clarification at this time?
I think we're good. I'm delighted with the news. Thank you.
Excellent. And thank you for coming in. It just makes communication so much easier when we're all working as a team. And thank you, Sean and Sarah for coming in and bringing this information, because the emails that we've been receiving have been very concerning, and that this is working out and you can address these needs is, as Mary Beth said, is excellent news, and we're happy to receive it. So we are going to move on to the budget, and you're more than welcome to stay a busy day and need to get back to your own work. But thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Okay, Teresa and Maria, are we here? On Friday, we did quite a bit of work. We on Thursday and Friday, we did some work on the web report, and then we got through about a quarter of the language. I don't even know if we got through a whole quarter of the language. But then there was additional language that was passed on Friday that is not included in our original packet. And Teresa, that is all posted now, is that correct?
Yeah, I just put I just put 4 documents up. There's the restatement of the House and Senate general fund differences, which you got this morning, the language differences, which you got this morning in the lists. And I just did CRF total side by side and the annotated, and I'll send you the last 2 right now.
And so my question is that, open up the Senate language, is this all the new language from page 1 to the end, or is this just the additional language? My print, it's not.
You want to do that?
I can't download it, Teresa. I can't open the attachment for some reason. That's weird.
It's only like a 1-pager.
Okay, nothing happened.
It's just a PDF. So let me, I sent it to you in a PDF form this morning, the whole committee.
They always open, yeah. Senate language. It's not, oh, there it is. Okay. And that includes, oh, so it's a 1-pager, and my printer, oh no, it's a couple pages. And it includes all the new pieces that we don't have if we had printed off the language from Thursday, right?
Yeah, it's the comparison, yeah. The side by side, or differences, I should say. Differences.
So my question is, to Maria, we're going to continue. We left off on page 19 of the language. I want to keep working through that language as quickly as we can as a committee. will you just note where there's new language? Or do you have it already in addition? Is it already added to your language pieces? That's my question I'm trying to spit out.
So it's not in the language that I had on Friday, but I will try to pay attention and insert it where it needs to go.
So we were using the annotated, I believe, right?
Yes, we were.
Okay.
So what I would like to do then, Maria, I'd like to continue with the document we started with. And if we can just note where there's additional language and then address that additional language when we have those copies in front of us. We've got enough language for us to address today. Do you happen to offhand, is there any additional language in the first sections that we've gone through that we just need to just put a line with a red mark saying more language coming? We've done section A100 through, we left off at B1102. Is there anything that we need to add that we haven't talked about so far?
So I just can't answer that. I have to look at the language. So Teresa, you said that you sent it earlier, the new floor amendments.
So
Let's just skip that then, Maria, and we'll come back to all those floor amendments from Friday. Let's just continue with what we have.
It's on
So-
both websites as well.
Kitty, if I might, this is where like I look at a document, the earlier annotated version was 161 pages. This one's 178.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more just differences than that, but that's my initial clue that this is the final.
Yes. I actually got a revise this morning from
Oh,
Chris.
okay, that's what I'm asking. So Maria, you are going to be working off the new list. Thank you, Diane, for looking at those page numbers. So this is going to include all the new language. And unfortunately, I don't have a copier that works as long as it could, and I don't really want to do 200 more pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, okay, that's good. This is where we left off. I think that your committee we've gone through B, and we were starting at business economic assistance and unemployment stimulus.
So my only thing I want to go back to, Maria, if there's new language in those first 19 pages that we've missed, but it looks like these page numbers are, well, I don't know if it's going to line up exactly. Okay, we'll go back and see if there's something we missed in the earlier section.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that. I just, yeah. Okay, so let's do what you just said.
Okay,
All
let's
right.
continue on with B1102.
Yeah,
Page,
okay.
page 19 for everybody, just so we're all know where we are.
So, okay, so B1102 is the section that addresses the new language the new money that was added by the, for the 85,000 for the commerce CRF funds. And you'll see some of the, I just got to turn my phone off. It's making noise, sorry. Anyway, so that number, the 143,700, what they've done is they've gone to the underlying bill, the actually resolves 137, and amended that bill to reflect the new money that's been added. So that 143,700 is an addition of 61,700,000. And I think this is worthy of just a little note to self. Like if you want to write in the margins, there's 4 places where we will see the total of 85 million added. And this is one of them. So this is the 61,700,000. And then we're going to come upon a 4 million for Restart Vermont. And then there's going to be a 2.3 million for Vermont State College workforce training. And then we're going to come upon, so Teresa, we'll just slowly walk through it, but we're going to also come upon a 17 million for the unemployment insurance supplemental benefit. So I just want you to have a heads up that those numbers are included in these documents that we're going through.
Just a second, Maria, for the committee, when the bill passed out of the House, when the bill passed out of the House, the Commerce Committee came in and they had, I think, $88 million going, they had a total, both have a total of 100 million. The House position was 88 million to go into the business sector for recovery grants. And then the other 12 was divided into 3 ways: 5 million for the ski areas, 3 million for the Vermont State colleges, and then the last 5 million, I need a refresher on. Maria, do you remember? Or Linda, I'm sure you remember.
I'm not,
What was
I'm not,
the- Does anyone remember the last 5? It was 5.
Well,
Can I
we're
just
gonna-
ask, when I look at our bill, that number, which is now here that they're reflecting, is 143. When it left the House, it was 170. But they don't show that because I think they just took it all down and just worked from the original or something.
Both,
But anyway, the House version was 170.
they both spend the same amount of money. It's how we
Mhm.
spend.
Just different ways.
And I think the 4th amount was the Restart Vermont, the 4 million, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep.
yeah,
So it was 88 million all going out to recovery grants to businesses. And then the other 12 was divided into 5 for the ski areas, 4 for Restart Vermont, and 3 to the Vermont. And so you're going to see it spread out.
Kitty, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Am I weak? Should I shut off the video? Is that better?
No, I think you just need to be,
Closer? Let me see if my volume may be way down. I apologize.
And somebody is rustling papers near their
Yeah.
microphone. That may be you, Kitty.
No, I haven't moved any.
Okay.
Kitty, I'm thinking if we flip back a couple of pages, we can see, just to refresh where we have ended up on page 17. Let's see, page 17. Okay, there. You'll see there we had part of this. Let's see. So that this at the bottom of the page is the $5 million that the House had put in for the ski areas, and the Senate just they struck that language because the ski areas are going to be part of the overall grant process. They're going to go through the process just like every other business, so they don't have a special carve out. They are still eligible, of course, for these grants. It's just not as a separate carve out. So that's where the 5 million that you just mentioned regarding the House lives or did live. Okay, and then on page 18, the next page, you'll see, yeah, there at the top, you see the 4 million, the Restart Vermont, and that is, I believe, the same as the House. There was a little bit of language that was added by the Senate, and you can see that in green. But this is part of the $85 million that the Senate has added. The Senate did a little bit differently. They did $85 million added to the bill, and then there's a $15 million contingent appropriation for a total of $100 million. Okay, and then on number 16.
Wait, so the UI piece is totally different money then? The 17 million is totally different money outside the 100 million?
No, it's in the money. It's in part of the 85 million. It's there's 4 pieces. There's 4 pieces and they add up to 85 million. It's 4 million for Restart Vermont. This is from the Senate perspective. 2.3 million for the Vermont State College workforce training, 61.7 million for business grants, and 17 million for the UI supplement. And if you add those together, you get 85 million.
And then where's the last 15?
So we'll see that language. It's coming up. It's part of this giant package that you have in front of you, and I will definitely flag it. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. It's on page 24, section B's and boy 1102.2. It's called contingent business grants, CRF appropriation. There you go. Yep, that's it.
Okay, that's what they did too. They did contingency of the 15 million, and that would help their number of 61.7 to get it closer to the 88 million.
Yeah,
and
so yeah, that's right. And the idea is that if there's any money left over from the allocation to the administration and the allocation, the 150 CRF, there's the Joint Fiscal Committee is allocating, if there's anything left over, or if we get FEMA money or monies that will replace some of those dollars, 15 million of those dollars will go to this purpose.
And so for this committee and for Linda, we will pull in Mike Marcotte in his committee because they're very similar. They both have business grants. They both have Restart Vermont, and they both have VSC. The big changes are the lesser amount in the business grants on the Senate side and adding 17 million to the UI. And so that's just going to be a conversation in progress with us and with the Committee of Jurisdiction. Okay, any questions from any members on how the difference between the $100 million that went out in commerce? Is everyone pretty clear on that?
I'm pretty clear on it, and I'm glad I put some mental time, although it was thick going through over the weekend to try to get my head wrapped around it. And I'm sure that I'm still missing a lot of pieces. But so my question is, because I was trying to tag up things that we had in our CRF bill with where they moved, and Maria did a good job of showing us where those other pieces moved. But I think coming up, and where does the 1.5 for the CUDs fall in?
We're going to wait.
We'll get to that. Okay.
Yep, I don't want to start jumping around.
That's not a part of the economic move, right?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Marty?
Yes, I do have a bit of a concern with what the Senate did, because it looks to me as if the 15 million that they're adding in to make up the total of 100 is contingent money, assuming it would come back from the JFC, as opposed to being directly 15 million that they're committed to do, not just presuming that something's going to come back.
Right.
So that does concern me a bit, that it cuts into the pot that JFC might have to take care of some last minute things that need to be taken care of.
Yep, it is concerning, and it's concerning that it cuts into the JFC pot, but it also cuts into the amount going out to support Vermont businesses that are struggling. And so that's
right, immediately. Yeah.
Right. So we'll have to, that will be a conversation between our committee and their committee to see where we land, but also making sure that the priorities from Commerce, that Mike is working through these with us and through the adjacent committee on the Senate side. We're close, but we're far apart at the same time in some of those areas. The themes are similar. Money is the problem, and the contingent, the word contingent is going to be an issue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll echo that. I know you guys will be going into committee at conference, but it seems like that 15 million that we actually were comfortable because of the advice that we were given by JFO, that this was a very high probability from FEMA and respond, that it might actually be more than the 15, and that 15 was a conservative use that we used straight up, went forward with. So I find that the construct that the Senate is proposing here just complicates that a whole lot, as we approach December, for businesses being able to apply and for the agency to be working with people. So,
All right, so we know where the issues are. I
Yeah.
just want to keep working through this language. We're not going to resolve them now, but also we need to ask the Joint Fiscal Office for updates where we are with the CRF dollars and the FEMA dollars, because those are changing, almost daily too. And so it changed significantly from when it left the House to the Senate, and it's going to change in our time where we're working out the differences as well. And then it's going to continue changing all the way to December 20th. And so, but those are the pieces that are on the table. And depending on the money that's available and the priorities, we'll sort through how the $100 million looks in the end. Okay, are we ready to move on? We didn't solve it, but we're aware. That's all I'm trying to do at this point. What page are we on? 20.
Okay, so yeah, page 20 also refers to the additional 61,700,000. And just as a reminder, the Senate had this 5 million for ski areas. They're going to compete against this pot of money. They're going to compete for their funds in this pot of money.
In the
Okay.
in the 117, right?
Yes.
So the
Yes.
areas competes here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna move a few pages. There's language changes. There's on page 22, there's a lot of language about process, and you can read through that. That's regarding these grants. So A says adopt a process, procedures, and guidelines. Then you know, you can, I don't know if you want me to go through this. You can submit they need to submit information to business, so businesses know how to apply for.
Oh, you moved to the next page. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on page 22. And so there is a full page of language that was added regarding how to apply for these funds. And there's also some reporting at the very bottom, provide bi-weekly updates to the General Assembly concerning implementation of this section.
And Linda, you'll bring these to the attention of House Commerce and anyone in this committee if you want to weigh in on with Linda. So
Okay, then page, sorry.
we can move on.
Yep, page 23, you'll see, this is where you're going to see the 17 million for the additional UI supplement. And the language states that it's for not more than $100 per week for not more than 5 weeks to Vermonters who received unemployment insurance benefit pursuant to this pandemic unemployment assistance. Well, there's statute.
This is directly related to the administration's request, and I think they requested 20 million here. Was it 18 or 20?
They requested 20 to the
20,
CFs, the Joint
20
Fiscal
million.
Committee.
And this is, you will see that in the Senate proposal that they did not continue with the gift card that we heard testimony on Friday. And not that this is a one-off, this for that or anything like that. That is not here, but this is the new piece that doing supplement of the $100 additional UI.
So can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
But they're using 17 million of CRF funds for this.
This is all part of the 100.
Yeah, okay. Obviously we'll work that out, but we must be able to use that. Yeah.
Yep, it's part of the 100 million, and Mike's committee, they'll work their priorities and we'll come up with a commerce package that the House and Senate agree upon, which also includes within the 100 million, the next page on 24 that Maria's already gone over, the 15 million of contingent grants if they become available that would go back into the business grants if that money becomes available. So Linda, that's another commerce, and that's part of the $100 million total package.
Okay.
Kitty?
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Marty. Marty?
I just wanted to clarify this unemployment, the 17 million, it's not another 100 on top of the 300 that we already allowed. It's
Yes.
100 for those that are still on unemployment from September 27th to November 15th. Because that extra 300 has already expired. Remember, there was originally, the federal
Right.
government had 600 extra, and then
That
that
went back
expired.
to August,
And
right?
then we fell into the federal program for another 300 for like 3 or 4 weeks. This is
Right.
now 100 for 5 weeks from September 27th onwards to November.
Thank you for
So
pointing that
somebody
out.
who's still on unemployment in October would get their regular unemployment plus 100.
Right, thank you. And the time period that I referenced was the August time period for the 300. And thank you. This is for a different period of time. Excellent point.
Right.
Okay, I think then we can now move on to telecommunications. And
Yeah, page 25. So we did that. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. Perfect. So what the Senate has done is they're amending the underlying bill, Act 137, to this has to do with the question that was asked earlier about the I guess nobody asked it. I'm sorry, hotspots. Oh God. So originally the bill had 50,000, 125,000 is being added here. And this is the issue of the Wi-Fi hotspots. And let's see. I believe this money was moved from where the House had it.
you're talking about number 7 here, because this is all black language above. Move down to 1105, Teresa, please. Are you talking about 1105?
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry. You know, I shouldn't waste your time looking at language that you've already approved. That's okay. Yeah, I'm talking about 1105, the telecommunications plan. This is the question that was asked earlier about the CUDs. This is where that 1.5 was moved because it is, the idea was that it was more appropriately placed here in order to be eligible for CRF funds.
So that was where I'll just jump in because that's where I just want to flag that, and Marty's on top of this because she's just on top, but this is where the polls we had for the polls. And now there's, I don't know how this impacts that construct that we had, but I also want to go back up to that line above it. B1105. That was our space in our bill that we took out from Mark Higley's amendment. The Senate puts this little repeal in, and I went and looked that up, and Marty, that was going to be a question for you. This changes one of the items on the 10-year telecom plan that they have to include. And so that will be the flag question, is like, what's the impact of them eliminating that from the telecom plan? They just repealed number 7. There's like a dozen of those.
What was number 7, Diane? Do you have that?
No, it's right there in front of me. See above, not,
Oh,
I'm not,
Right.
This is available.
B1105, when we look at our original bill, was the place where we had the $400,000 movement that we took out for Mark Higley, the rental assistance. So we had removed that. The Senate has used that spot for this new, yes. So they added this in that location that repeals one of the many items that the 10-year telecom plan is supposed to include in their development.
So
I
Diane,
went,
we're going to
Yep.
have Steve Klein jump in and explain this piece.
Okay. But we don't have to
Okay.
decide. I just wanted to let you know that it's there, that could be a big question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just throw a couple things out. Representative Lanford did catch a good point here. The telecom plan did have in there looking at the issue of the CUDs, and what the Senate said is, and the telecommunication plan is a long-term look, and the Senate said, well, we're giving them short-term money, to study the CUDs, so we don't need to even look at them on a long-term basis. So that was sort of the tie the Senate made. It's a little, the Senate proposal is a short-term CUD study, and in exchange, they got rid of the long-term look. So it is definitely an issue that probably should be open. The second one, I'm just going to flag 11.05.1. This was, there was a lot of questions about the polls and whether or not the polls would be eligible. And so what the Senate did, I think in conversations with the House Chair, Chair Briglin, is since there already was 800,000 going to fund this type of just general work, the proposal is to increase that to 2.3, add the 1.5 there. And since that's already underway and there's already some approval of that type of expenditure, that could cover polls. It could cover other things too. And so they lumped all that money into the sort of category of already approved things. It's not going to be loved, I think, by the Commissioner Tierney, because it was hard to place the 800. Now they've got to place 2.3. But rather than go through a new process with a new program, it seems safer to put it through an existing process. The old program had a $100,000 cap. This one has a $400,000 cap. So they can essentially provide the various recipients with more money and get the money out quicker. And if polls can be made eligible, they could fund polls.
Marty, do you have a question here or thoughts?
Well, I agree, and it's easier to throw it into an existing pot that was already part of our June calculations. And they did change the language a bit to accommodate that, or to accommodate what the original idea was for a poll data survey and some pre-construction work perhaps. And the language now talks about accelerating their deployment schedules and things like that, rather than specifically saying for a poll data survey. But indeed, some of that work can be done early and be done before December. And by pulling it within that bigger pot to start with, it just makes it easier. And the CUDs can all turn around and apply again for that pot of money.
And Marty,
So I think it's fine.
1101A, has Tim Briglin's committee weighed in on 1101A?
1101A, what's that?
Where are we, 1105, I'm sorry, 1105, 1105.1. I don't know where I came up with the other number. The part that we're going.
The 1105.1 is what we're talking about now. And yes, they're aware of that.
And
The 1105 that Diane just mentioned, I had missed that, and I'm going to do some checking on that one.
Okay, so we'll leave that one open, but did they take a position on the new language and using the initiative for the polls within this new construct? Have they weighed in on that? Did they work with us on this language?
They have not officially weighed in on it, but I have informed Tim Briglin of all of the changes that occurred with their requests. And I don't know that they're going to meet today, but he might take a straw poll on all those items and let us know. I don't see any, he didn't seem to think there were any complications.
Okay. Then let's just leave them both open until you come back with us. And then at the very bottom on this new section is where you see the grant awards going from 100 to 400 that Steve had mentioned. So we'll hold that all open, Marty, until you've heard.
Yes.
The committee. Okay, thank you. Let's move to 1106, which brings us to page 27, I think, Teresa, Maria.
Yeah, yes, okay, so this section has to do with the 75 million that the administration had to allocate and the 150 million that the joint fiscal committee had to allocate. And what's going on here, the black language already had 2,565,237 reverting from the administration's 75,000. So that was money that was reallocated in CRF. And if you go down, yes. So you'll see here that out of the 150 million joint fiscal committee money, 2 million is being reverted and reallocated.
Okay.
We had 20 million.
No.
Or the first 20 million.
Yeah, you're right that we had assumed that there would be some FEMA money that could offset some of the money that was allocated. This is different. This is okay. So that issue we talked about earlier, where the Senate is assuming 15 million that in their contingent money, but this is actually.
Go ahead. This relates to page 24. This language relates back to 24, and you're right, Diane, we did do the 20 million we thought we would get from FEMA, and they have done a whole different construct here and have just zeroed in on.
Right.
Not
and yeah, and their construct is short of ours by 5 million. And in their language, they only include taking it from the 150 and not from the 75 as well. They just take it from one side of, it's a, and, you know, it's interesting.
So up above, in the language the House passed, they're agreeing with the reversion of the 2.565 million from the 75 million to the administration. And then in addition to that, they're reverting 2 million. And you're right. I mean, if you look at the language that's crossed out, it said there is some House language that says the first 20 million are reassigned. It refers to the 20 million that you were just talking about. But this is, as the chair said, a different construct.
Yeah, and in the end of where it is, it's 5 million sort of lost in this little shell.
Okay, so when we go through and determine what we're going to do with the FEMA dollars and how much we can capture, what we're going to take from those two original plots that go through JFC, we will decide if we agree or if we need to alter the 2 pages on page 24 and 27. Linda, this is related to yours, but it's because it's how we spent some of that money out of the 100,000. But as a committee, we will determine what we're going to do there. But I think we can move on because we're not going to make a decision on that now. Page 28 is.
Yeah, so I think we can skip to page 29 because 28 is just all language that you already, okay, there we go. Boom, right there, Defender General. The Defender General notified us that there was 300,000 CRF monies that they had been appropriated in Act 120, the Q1 bill. And those monies are not going to be able to be used by the end of the year. So those monies are being taken away here. And you'll see, you did see it actually on Friday, that the Senate added general fund monies to replace this. This was part of the general fund increase that they included for the Defender General.
So this is the 453 is GF.
No. This is all coronavirus CRF money still. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that they said they aren't going to be able to use the CRF monies between now and the end of the year. So what the Senate did was they took a look at their need and backfilled with general funds. So you see that on the web report.
I'll give you, on the web report, it's on B202 is where they increased it.
Yeah, and they increased it by 375, but 300
Right.
of that 375 relates to this issue right here.
Okay, but my question is, they are confident then they can get the 453 out by December 20th.
That's what they reported to us. They
And
feel
this-
confident with that.
Okay, so if they're confident with that piece, but obviously then it leaves a hole and that's where the general fund piece will be, Diane says is on B202.
Yes.
We were aware of this issue, but it came just as we were bringing the bill to the floor. And so we did not have time to address it. Chip, you'll follow up on these pieces. And then we're going to determine how we find that general fund, depending on our priorities as well, if we choose to. I can't see my green and my black with my light. I can look at the screen. Let's go down to B1108.
Okay, so this language also refers to the 150 million that the Joint Fiscal Committee has to allocate. And what it's saying is that any money that's not used, let's see, shall revert to the CRF fund. Here in the middle sits, okay. Unless otherwise authorized by the Commissioner of Finance, any monies appropriated from the CRF fund, shall revert to the CRF to the extent that they have not been expended by December 20th. So this is so that they can be reallocated. This is a lot of language to basically say that any money that's not spent of the 150 million is going to be reverted and reallocated. And I think that relates to the 15 million that we talked about earlier.
So my question
No,
is.
this is all money.
This is the new plan. This is their rewrite of our whole. If
Okay,
this, then
all right.
that.
All
Well,
right.
I just,
My-
yeah,
my-
it goes on from page 10, well, in the other bill,
So
it
my-
goes on for many pages. And
My-
it's just rewritten, everything that we did is not there, and this replaces it. I have no idea how it impacts the difference between what we did and what they're doing.
I can just, it's worth, probably we'll go through it at some point with, you can go through with Jen. There are really two changes they did. Most of them are technical. The only, they deleted the way you would send over to the Senate, you had some specific priorities. Those specific priorities were taken out.
Right.
And
Right.
there was a discussion in the Senate about, well, why aren't we prioritizing agriculture? Why aren't we prioritizing other things? So they just left the priorities that put in about liabilities and revenue, and took out the other direct priorities. And then they also took out a couple other paragraphs later on, which were probably superfluous, but maybe not. You can talk to Jen about, they weren't really substantive. It's more just repeating things that were in the law elsewhere. So I think you'll find the biggest change is the priority change of not specifying what they are. But Jen should really could go through the technical differences. I think there was some of them, like they wanted to clarify that it was money that hadn't been encumbered, because if it's already encumbered, they didn't want to take it back. And a lot of smaller changes like that. There actually is an annotated version we can send you, I think, of this.
My question, Steve, where's the language? Oh, we had a ton of language. Where's our deleted language? That's because I wanted to compare.
Yeah.
Where is it? What section did they delete the language from?
So it's, I think the best thing I can do is send you, Jen did a copy with crossouts and deletions, so that you could use that. The way this annotated version is set up, it just has the replacement language and has your language, I think, separate, but I will check that. I think the most useful thing would be to give you a copy with the deletions.
But if you look on page 27, you see our language deleted on page 27. It has,
Yeah.
it has the green line through language.
You're right, but I guess what I'm saying is that they deleted the whole thing and substituted a new version, but the changes are pretty minimal. And so I want to get you a copy that shows some of the technical changes, so you can actually see the difference, because it's very hard because they substitute out a whole new version.
Exactly, and that was where I got with it too, and I just printed theirs and put it in my book next to mine, and I thought we're going to deal with that one because that's a bigger issue. And if it was not so, if it wasn't, if their changes didn't substantively change things, then why did they have to strike the whole thing and rewrite it? Why didn't they just change the pieces that made some decent improvements by removing the word previously? So this is going to take a little more by somebody to dig into to make sure our priorities are.
We will have Jen come in and walk through these language changes with us so that we understand the technical pieces versus the substantive pieces that may have been taken out. So that's going to bring us all the way to 33, I believe.
Yeah. So Steve, since you're on, section B 1109, the contingency planning for increased CRF flexibility, is this also something that Jen might want to go over, or is this something?
Yeah, I think what it was, and I'm trying to see if I can find the document that outlines all the changes, but she could go over all those sections, because that.
Okay, so that would
We
be,
basically worked it through, and I think you'll find most of them are not substantive, but you'll need to go over with her.
So
Maria, if we're tracking, it's 1108, 1109, and 1110.
we're going to continue on page
Yeah.
36 would be 1111. And
okay, perfect.
and Carby come in and do all of those other pieces. Okay, let's go to page 36. These are, this is the education piece. No.
Yeah. The first piece of B 1111 is the extension of the application deadline for the $13 million that municipal grants.
Read this already? I have we talked about this and we
may have talked about this particular one. I think down the next section, 1112.
Before we continue on, I want to stay on the 1111 number A. Last week, we talked about this, and I believe that we had affirmation from our committee to move that date out to October 15. We had an email from the tax department. Is anybody else remembering this? Does anyone have an issue with moving this date out 1 month? If not, I think we check that out. We'll come back to it. Okay, I'm not hearing any opposition. Now let's move down to the pre-K. This is where they've added money, and Chip, you're going to follow with the committee of jurisdiction. They moved our 32.5 or 34.5, 32.5 up to 53 million. So I think, Chip, you'll do that work, and Maria, let's jump over to page 37.
Okay, 37. Okay, so this also, okay, so they appropriated, so there was already an appropriation of 50 million in fiscal 20, and the 53 million is for 21 CRF funds. So you flip the page and you can see how that 53 million is spent on page 37. Teresa, I think, yeah, 37. Yeah, right, perfect. Okay.
Except I want to just make sure the committee knows that we did 50 million in 2020. The 53 is in fiscal year 21.
Correct.
So it's not moving from 50 to 53. It's an additional where we only did the 32 or 4.5. This is how they have allotted those 53 million. Go ahead, Maria. I'm sorry, I keep.
Okay, no, it's, here's the thing. I agree with you because this House language, it's not crossed out, so you can't see the difference. But the first place that they added of the, let's see, of the 53 million, let's see, there was an addition to Efficiency Vermont. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. It's 2B, the bottom of the page. So there's 7 million added there, and there's, but I don't have in front of me the number that the House, I believe there was a intermediate.
I can help with that if you, only because
Yeah, do you have that number?
Yeah, I do. So our original position, we had 11.5.
Okay, 11.5. Okay, so that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I can
good.
help.
See, yeah, okay. So they're actually $2 million over this house. Okay, here. I think, our annotations, we just have to work with them a little bit more because this is a transition year for all of us, for staff. And so we just gotta, anyway, that's okay. So then down below for public schools, where it says 41 million, now it's 88.3. That's an increase of 47.3 million. So if you add
from the governors,
but see, again, I don't have what the House number was, so
we had 68.4.
Chip, I think, is trying to jump in here. Chip.
Oh, okay.
No.
No, I was just gonna provide the number. We've already got them, so.
Okay, thank you. So 68.4. So if somebody does the quick math, we'll see the addition, and it's all going to total up to.
Yes, it's 19.9 million.
19.9 million. Okay.
Yeah, over House. Yeah, I apologize for this. We should be able to see the House numbers as well as the governor's numbers, but okay. So that's okay. And then if we flip, let's see, if we flip to, so this is page.
Chip, you will work with the committee of jurisdiction about the 4 million of the remaining funds and how those are used.
Yeah, that was in our version, so that's not new.
Yeah, this is difficult to read when it's all in green and it doesn't include ours.
Yeah, I agree. I really do agree with you here. You're right on that. So maybe what we need to do, and I'll sort through this, we need to show you the House numbers and then the change from the House to the Senate. This doesn't quite do that. So my numbers aren't going to add up, but the next page, on page 38, the independent schools, the governor had 1.5, the Senate now has 1.2, and if somebody has it in front of them, what the House had, does anybody know what the House number had been up there in the top of page 38?
I don't think we had changed it. I think. It was-
Okay, that's fine. So the Senate took out 300,000.
And do you know, Maria, was that they didn't think they would have the eligible costs, or?
So I don't know the answer to that, but I can certainly find out. I'm sure that we have some background information on this. I bet it's in a memo somewhere.
That'd be great.
Steve, you don't know why this was done, do you? Okay.
But I'm not sure what this refers to.
Okay, on page 38, at the top, under 2, it says approved independent schools. There's a reduction from 1.5 to 1.2 million.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
there it
because I guess they went and got all the applications for independent schools and it only totaled slightly below 1.2 million. So and that's on a sheet that's on our website, spreadsheet you can look at. And so then it seemed like all the grants went out and it came out to less than 1.5. They just took the other 300,000 to the bottom line of the other schools programs.
Makes sense.
That's why they reduced it.
Mhm.
The
Nice.
accounting and technical assistance, the AOE decided not to use it and put all that money into the general money for schools. So again, that was part of it. And the schools could apply for accounting or technical assistance in their general request for assistance. So it just meant that AOE wasn't going to use that money. So again, they freed that up to provide generally for schools because they were trying to get to the higher number that this thing's. It actually, no, it's in the, it's the first item in the Senate restatement collection, if you want to pull it up, Teresa.
It's a GF? I thought it was a CR.
No, it's the first item. It's not today. It was a couple days ago or 3 days ago, I think. It's a spreadsheet. And the, I can pull up a link to it if you want, but it's, if you go to the list of items in the joint fiscal website under Senate budget restatement, you'll go to the first one on, meaning the earliest one of those it's called K through 12 CRF estimates, September 2020. And it's a spreadsheet. Are you finding it, Teresa?
That you're looking at the Senate proposal CRF?
No, I will send it to you.
Because I don't. Are you K through 12 CRF estimates September?
Yes. Yes.
I just found it. It was down way inside there. Okay, you hang on and I'll put this up. Come on, let's go. Make it a little bigger.
Yeah, you'll need to make it a lot bigger. And I don't really know if you want, the committee wants, I can certainly go over this. The committee might want to, this is a little bit of a long thing. I don't know if you want to do it now or later.
Steve, I don't want to do this now.
Okay.
And I really want Chip to follow this.
Yeah. So maybe I'll talk to Chip about it and then we can come back to you later. He can come back to you later. Okay. But anyway, at least you know it's there.
That's great. And Teresa, where is that? So I can have.
So
We'll
it's
send it a
on
copy.
the Municipal website, but I'll just send it to everybody and then you'll just have it.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're gonna go back. Let me get rid of this. Hang on. There we go.
Okay, and are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
I have a question as we're scrolling down here in the next little, that section continues, the crossed out.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if you add up all the differences from all the numbers that are crossed out and then look at the new numbers, all of these different sections add up to a $53 million increase.
Mhm.
Okay.
So Maria, maybe I can ask you in this where they've crossed that out, then they've added this new section, which talks about prorating if there are more expenses than we have the funds for. So it says, if the appropriated CARES Act funding proves to be insufficient to cover all reimbursement requests, any costs for new pandemic expenses shall be fully covered to the extent appropriate funds are available. At what point are they talking about new expenses? I mean, they're talking about those will be the ones that are prorated.
So I think that this is a conversation that you need to have somebody that is more familiar with the subject walk you through. I just don't have the answer to that.
Then we would have, Tip, who would you like to have in, or who do you want?
I'll just talk to Jim Demaray.
Okay.
Work on that.
Can I throw, Chip, can I ask you to take a look at one other thing? Because I didn't get into it, but I just flagged it on my notes. Is that deletion of 1114 was in our bill, the school year language, and they dropped that down to 115 or 1115.
Well, they got rid of a section that we had.
Yeah, they got rid of the Australian ballot thing, and I have no idea why. That would be the only question I would have, like, why was that taken out?
Because
you don't have to answer.
Committees disagree.
Yeah.
And so, Chip, you will work with the Committee of Jurisdiction on that, and then that may be a piece that we have to work with, that we would work with the Senate on probably, and not House and Senate Education.
Yeah.
All right, but let's see. So I'm having a really hard time in this room seeing what's green and what's black. So D, Jim is going to check in with Jim Demaray on D. Is number 2 above in black or green? I can't tell. I think it's black.
So the next section that's green, I think, is B1113.
Okay. And
That's, yeah.
And that's the number that we already saw that was increased by the $2 million. And that will be a conversation that we will determine if we agree or cannot agree on. 14 has been completed, but we see it in 15. And then Chip will talk with the Committee of Jurisdiction, or we're going to work with the Australian ballot piece and the importance of having it or not having it here. And 116 is the next one, which is the waiver language. Has this changed from our House version?
No, they kept all the stuff. They've added some new things. Once you get to 118, everything else is new, but they kept the stuff that we had other than the Australian ballot.
So we can check off 115 and we can check off 116 because it is our own, and 117 we can
That's
also
the same. Yeah.
Okay. And then 118 is a new number, and this has to do with ADMs. Chip, do you want to talk about this piece?
Well, only that I think everybody agrees that there's a need for it. I think this is where the House Committee wants to go too. But like I say, all this stuff from here on is new, and they're meeting to discuss it tomorrow, and I'll be there tomorrow, but I haven't talked to the chair about where they are on these new sections.
Okay, so just 118, Chip, and then 119 is new, and is 119 new? Yes?
Yes, it is.
And 120?
Yes.
Okay, and then how much further, Chip? The tax force for after school?
Yeah.
And 120, 1112, 1.1.
That's
Oh,
new.
that's a huge new piece.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's going to bring us all the way over to 46.
So Kitty.
That's the wrestling papers.
Yeah. Hey, Kitty.
Yes.
For Chip, obviously one of the questions for education is how are they going to do all of this in the time period, and what's it going to cost, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is pretty massive stuff they dropped in.
Okay, Chip, you will take all. Mary, do you have another question? Your hand went back up. Or comment? No?
So,
That's a big piece of policy, Chip, and perhaps they have taken testimony on this and they're ready to accept or come back with some changes to it, or it may be too much to do at this point, but you'll have those conversations with the committee.
yeah.
Okay, are we good there? A lot of pieces, Chip. Let's move to page 1121.
Yeah, section 1121.2. So this section we're shifting to a new subject, the Healthcare Stabilization Grant Program. And here there's $25 million that is being freed up from the Agency of Human Services. And there's a couple of things I want to point out here. When the House passed their bill, there were two expenses that you had. One was the DAs and SSAs for $3 million, and the other was the long-term care. I'm sorry. The other one was the Vermont Health Equity, and that was $1 million. So those two items, as we progress through this section, you're going to see that they're incorporated into this money for the Healthcare Provider Stabilization Grant Program. Okay, so I just want to give you a heads up because there's a lot of moving pieces throughout this budget, and these are two of them. So first, there's a free up of $25 million from the Healthcare Provider Stabilization Grant Program. And I think Steve might be able to comment on why that occurred. But if you want to keep moving, we can also keep moving.
No, if you look at the bottom of page 47.
Well, at the page 47, there's
Number 4, that was $1 million in our construct.
yeah. So on page 47, this is where you're going to see a few different things. First, you see the EMS workers. That $2 million is number 1. That's $2 million, and then number 2. Okay, then number 2 is $3 million for the testing in hospitals. And I don't believe that the House had that in their numbers. Wait, let me see. I'm sorry. I don't believe they did.
We did not, but we
Okay.
did have the next 3 million, but we had it
Yes, you
separate.
did.
So they're taking this out of the 250.
That's right. That's correct.
Okay.
So this money for the DAs and SSAs is being folded into this pot of money. And then, as the chair mentioned, the one at the bottom, the 750 was $1 million in the House. And so it's 750 now, and it's being folded into this bigger pot of money. Okay.
And then the 2 million, the first one, that's the EMS piece.
Yes.
Okay, and so Dave and Mary, you both have some pieces in here within to work with
Yep.
the committee across the hall. First of all, we're moving
Yes,
75 to 250, but within that 250 that we passed back in June, that, would we include the related testing, the EMS workers, and then we had agreed to 3 million going to the DAs and SSAs, but not, we hadn't put it out of this pot. And then the healthcare equity, I believe that the new executive director weighed in on this language and weighed in on that amount to see why they went from 1 million to 750, if it covers what they feel the need is, and if the committee across the hall agrees or disagrees with the language. And that brings us through 48 into the top of page 49.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So now,
Dave or Mary, any questions on those pieces? They're similar money. There's some additions, and it's coming from an existing an existing pot of money instead of new CRF.
I don't have any questions. I know that with the $100,000 that they're giving to the Director of Racial Equity to set up a dashboard, I have a hard time thinking that that can happen in the period of time here, but we'll sort it through. That's a new thing. I don't think we'd seen that before. Maybe I'm wrong.
And
So
I guess,
Mary,
Mhm.
go ahead, Dave.
Dave here. So I don't want to duplicate anybody's work. I've been emailing the director on this issue. So do you want me to run with that one, Mary, or do you want it?
You've got it.
Okay, I'll work on that. And I'll work on the $750,000 one. The other one you mentioned, EMS, that's Peter's, I believe. Did you mention,
And
or am
then,
I just?
Peter, are you with us yet? Peter was away. I don't know if he's
Yes,
back with us.
I've been here. I have been here for the past, I don't know, 20 minutes. I haven't done EMS this year. I mean, I can certainly jump in, try to figure out what's going on with it, but I haven't done it.
Nor have I.
Go ahead, Peter. Peter, since
But
you
it's in
said
the
you
health
could, go
department.
ahead.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
Okay, and then the testing in hospitals and long-term facilities. If it's the testing piece, Peter, do you or Dave want to follow up on the testing piece? It's part of the healthcare. Testing, I'm assuming, would come out of the health department, but
Yeah, so
but-
I'll follow up with that. Again, all they did was they reoriented the money from a direct CRF appropriation and put it into the healthcare stabilization CRF appropriation. So, but I'll run that to ground with the healthcare committee.
And Mary, yours is the same amount of money, but from an existing source that you'll weigh in on. And Dave, you said you would do the 750, which brings us to the top of page 49, including
Yep.
the dashboard piece, but you're already talking to the executive director. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, let's move to, Maria, let's move to page
Okay.
9.
So
Please.
I'm thinking that this was an amendment, or because it wasn't in the version of the bill that we talked about on Friday, like my hard copy, but let's just go through it. Okay, so the first change in this section is, you can see the money, they added $22 million in sub 2, and then the change that is being highlighted on the screen is
Wait.
they include.
Is this new from Friday? I'm
Yeah,
not-
I believe it is. And Steve, can you just say whether or not this was added on the floor? Is it in? It wasn't in my version that I worked from Friday, but it is today. So something happened between the two
Okay, can you
times.
go up,
Yeah,
I can check on that.
I actually don't know.
Okay, I'll check on that.
Just
But-
Teresa, can you move the screen up so I can see after E on reports that where we left off? I'm wanting to see,
There.
this is all new.
Section 6.
Yes, what they have done is they've put the whole frontline hazard pay bill, they've dropped the hazard pay bill into the
Yes.
budget. And that's what this is. And go up one more, Teresa, so I can see a little bit more. Stop right there. Okay, so go down a little bit more. I wish I could. Okay,
Yeah.
so right there. So they've added a new section, section B1121.1, and this is all hazard pay. So we are not going to go through all of these pieces.
Okay.
They have dropped their original hazard pay. We know we did a different hazard pay on Friday. We made some changes to it, but I would like to drop all the way down to section B 1122 now. Because I think that's
Okay.
contingency hazard pay here. Teresa, can we keep going down?
Kitty, I didn't hear what section you want to go to.
I want to go to section B 1122, I think. I just want to make
Yes,
sure.
you do. That is what you want.
This is all the hazard pay. This is going to take up a lot of those new pages. that Diane referred to. Instead of 161, it's 178. And here's a bunch of them. It's the entire hazard pay bill.
Good, correct. That's. So the next section that is
We're
being
getting-
scrolled down to is 1122, and that's also a bill that was
Go back to the
dropped in.
top of 1122, because this is new language too. We're not at,
What page? Because I'm getting lost here. The
I am too.
craziness here.
I
Okay,
can't.
let me see if I've got it online. Let me just see if I can find exactly where it starts.
Teresa,
There's
go
so-
back to 1122. When you see B 1122, stop.
Okay, that's what we're looking for. Okay. Oh,
1122 is the stimulus equity.
right. What page is it on?
No. Just a second.
I think it's page 59.
You're
You've
going
gone
the
too
wrong
far
way.
ahead.
The other way. The other way then.
Yeah.
59?
59.
Oh, okay. Somebody told me to go backwards. So that's where
I
I
thought
went.
you'd gone ahead of it.
No,
Okay.
This is more hazard pay.
There it is. Yep.
Oh, no, we don't
21.2.
keep going.
See, it's even
Stop.
further. Here we
Stop,
go.
stop right there.
Page
This,
6.
yeah, this is new language too. And then down below it, stop right there. Stop, don't go, 1122. All of this is new language that we did not have.
No. Yeah.
Yep. 0.4,
Okay.
0.3.4.
The
So-
difference is, this is where we amended it to add in our language about the hub. Remember that small piece? It would show up under B here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
gotta get a new copy of this because it's really hard when you don't have.
So
Okay, let's,
Kimberly, is anything else new here? Or is that?
That's the only one that I saw that was new there, because we had only done a very,
Yeah.
actually, no, I stand corrected. Remember, we also expanded with more precision how to describe childcare programs. So that paragraph B was different in the House version.
Okay, so we need more work on it.
so Kimberly, I've got a quick question for you. This is language that we had in ours, but I am not seeing it in our copy from Thursday. I go right to 1122 for,
Not there. It's not there.
so they've dropped all of this in to the language.
I think,
Well,
Madam Chair, that B1121.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4 are all new that they dropped in on Friday.
Yes,
right.
yes. So it's not just that one paragraph, that's a change, but it's been dropped into the budget.
Right. So when we worked on S232 on the floor, those changes, whether it's the Till amendment, whether it's what we did in the House Appropriations Committee around hubs, none of that is captured here.
No. Additional research.
And we don't know if they tried to, do we?
No,
Well,
no,
the
no, they-
timing was off.
no, not
sorry.
just their timing was off. I believe that they agree that their position is their hazard pay as it passed the Senate.
And not ours.
Yeah, and maybe they will agree to incorporate some of the pieces that we're passing. But my question is, this piece that has to do with DCF is not part of the hazard pay bill, is it? Or is this?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
can't, can you scroll up, Teresa, a little bit so I can see where this, stop right there. Childcare, summer camps, after-school programs, section 14. We don't have this piece.
Right. That's why I can't find it.
This is new.
This is all new language.
Yes, it is all new. It's not in the bill that we had on Friday.
And it doesn't include hazard pay. It's not part of the hazard pay piece.
Well, it does, in B, it says a prospective workforce stabilization program.
But that's the
Let me-
same thing. That's the same thing. Prospective Workforce Stabilization Program is the renamed piece.
Yeah.
that what the Senate used to call hazard pay, if you recall,
Mhm.
there was the
That's
error
correct.
made in which amendment apparently, and it should be prospective workforce stabilization, so that's correct. And then the tweaks that we made in our committee.
Okay, so Kimberly, you are going to follow up on 1121.4. Let's go back to 1121.3. I just want to make sure we're following up with
Yeah.
1121.3, delegation of administrative responsibilities, human services.
Yeah, hazard,
Okay,
that's hazard pay.
that is hazard pay, but it's within human services, Kimberly. So I want you to continue with that language with point 3, and now let's go to point 2. The other hazard pay is all Linda, but point 2 is with former employees. Linda, this is going to be part of the other hazard pay up above. This is an addition.
Okay,
So Linda, you have point 1 and point 2. Kimberly, you have point 3 and point 4. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's move on and see what the next section is after 1121.4, if there's anything else added.
So
I
you
think
wanna
that's
go-
it.
You want to go up more?
Keep going down to 1121.4 and see
That was the last thing.
if that's the last thing, then it should be 1122 that's next. Keep going.
Right.
Kimberly's got this piece.
Okay.
Keep going.
There.
Okay, now we're back. So all of that other is all new added language, and this is where we've left off.
Yes.
Marty?
Yeah,
Marty?
just scroll down through this section on the equity program. They included children under 18.
Oh.
It's on page 62
yeah, I
as
noticed that.
opposed to 17.
Yep.
I thought the Senate approved our bill. Didn't they act on our bill?
Well, you know, if they're under 18, ours ours are.
Yeah.
Can we make an amendment to go under 18? That
Yes.
we move from 17 to 18?
No.
No,
stuck with
we went back the other way.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
The
would have
House bill
opened,
had 17.
that's right.
and
It
I
would have
thought-
opened up,
I thought
it
the
would've-
Senate approved it.
Steve, did you follow any of the Senate discussions if they made a conscious decision to go back to the under 18 date versus the 17 after all the things that we learned and how it was going to complicate? Are you there, Steve? I know, Maria, you weren't listening to those because you were with us.
No, I wasn't listening, but I'm going to find out for you. I will let you.
Adam has his hand up and he may
Okay.
be listening to those conversations. Adam?
Yeah, pardon me. Good morning, everyone. That was an error when
Okay.
they lifted it from one page into another. We pointed that out and Michael O'Grady and Stephanie spoke, and it was simply an error that
Okay.
should be worked out in some amendment or in conference committee. If you go to conference committee and the like, it was not done advertently. It was an inadvertent error.
Okay. And so at this time, the Senate is not planning to take the bill up separately as we had passed. They're just going to drop it in the budget and not take it up. Adam, do you happen?
That was I believe that was the intent. You'll have to check that, but I believe that was the intent. But the 17-year-old to 18, that was an error that they meant to stay with the House language.
And so Marty, after that, I believe all the pieces are the same.
Until the appropriation.
And
Yeah.
what,
It's,
they do a different construct for the appropriation, correct?
yeah. Yeah, but the total is the same. It's 5 million. So this,
Adam, we absolutely thank you for that information and knew you. But Marty, just
You're
for
welcome.
that we cross all of our Ts and dot our Is, will you just also check with Mike O'Grady that that's in error? Not that I don't trust you, Adam.
No, that's fine.
Kitty, I should do that, probably not Marty.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you're right. That was your bill, Chip. That was your parting gift. Thank you.
Chip,
And
I'll
let's-
forward to you an
Welcome.
email
To join in,
between
but
Michael
probably not
O'Grady and me.
supposed
And then let's go now to the appropriation piece.
Okay, as noted by the chair, they have a different construct. The total is $5 million. The House had put 2 million general funds and 3 million from reallocated money from the Chins bill. The Senate has taken 2 million general funds and $3 million from the Human Service Caseload Reserve.
So Maria, just
Yes.
because we're scrolling through at the same time and I want all members to be able to follow the page number where it shows that construct is on.
It's on page 67.
So we have to jump way ahead.
Oh, okay, so there you are. Bingo, right there. I'm sorry, I thought you were there.
Okay, so on page 67, which is totally different from my pages now, that's not going to
Yeah.
work. Let me
Right. So on your document, it's probably page at the bottom of 54 in the old document from Friday. Okay.
So I think that we can, 122, we can check off because that language is, the skip is all set with the 15. I mean, the age of 17, we can check off 122. It's our bill. It's 123 where you're going to find the difference in money. Now go ahead, Teresa, Maria. So.
Okay, so let me just put okay there. All right, so now.
Aren't we going to have an amendment to it possibly on the 17?
We don't have any amendment. We're going to make the changes in the budget and pass
Budget.
it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so we just talked about the appropriation.
Oh, Diane, you are absolutely right. It all depends if we do further amendment or if we do a conference committee. So I had conference committee in my head, there would be no amendment. It's just working out the differences. But if we do further amendment, that's one we need to decide. Thank you.
Or just, you know, I just know that that's something we potentially Chip's gonna come back with.
Yeah. But it depends on which method we move, whether we have to do, put it part of a technical or whether it's just in conference. Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, so we just talked about this section here. This is the appropriation. Is different source of funds in the House than in the Senate. As you recall, the governor had 2 million general funds. That 2 million is used in both the House and Senate construct. The House used 3 million of the Chins money from back in 2018 special session that was appropriated. And the Senate used, instead of Chins, they used the Human Service Caseload Reserve funds.
So that is going to be a conversation that our committee has if we want to use Human Services Caseload funds or if we want to use the Chins money.
And
go ahead.
I just want to make a note that as we go through this language, you're going to see some language on how they use the Chins money. So they've accommodated, they've used that money, but we'll see that in a bit. Okay.
And I don't have this bill in front of me when we did the stimulus equity bill, but section A is the 5,000 and then up to 50,000 for administration. That has not changed. Is that correct?
That's correct. So what you see in this language is they're calling it 5 million general funds, and that's because in the B, sub B, they take 3 million and they unreserve it from the Human Services Caseload Reserve, and it gets put into the general fund. And so in A, they appropriate the full 5 million from the general fund.
Okay, which includes the governors too that he identified.
Yes.
Marty?
Exactly.
Marty? Or Mary, who had their hand up?
Mary.
Yeah.
I think that we said in A that we named the director of racial equality in A, rather than just the agency of administration. So I think that is different from what we said.
We named her earlier in the bill, but I don't.
Yeah.
Not here?
Yeah, this is just for.
Okay. I just didn't want to lose that piece. So Chip's got it. Thanks.
It's on small letter C1. The program shall be administered by A of A. in consultation with the ED of Racial Equality. And the Agency of Human Services was asked to weigh in. So those three pieces are in there. Marty?
No.
Nope. Okay. All right, Chip. So you have this, and then our committee will decide on where the $3 million is appropriated from. Let's move on. I'm hoping it's 11:24. And
Yeah, it is. Okay, so this is an amendment to the, it changes the deadline for the agricultural CRF assistance programs. And if you recall, in the House S351, well, it was the House and Senate, it became Act 138 for the Dairy Assistance Program. The deadline had been October 1 for applying, and the deadline has been changed in this bill to November 15th, 2020. And you can see that, yeah, right there.
we'll come back to this as a committee, and Chip, you'll flag that by the committee of jurisdiction, the deadline. Okay, let's move on.
So the a lot of this language, and you know, I might need to find out if there are other nuances, but a lot of this language has to do with the date change and specifying, instead of referring to funds, they say Corona relief funds. And so you know what, there's a few different language changes here. And if you need detailed information, I can get it for you. I just don't have it right in front
And
of me.
I think, Chip, you'll be able to run these through with Michael Gray. If there's something hidden within, I don't, you know, the status of the dairy assistance program and taking that out in non-dairy and just going back to PRF assistance programs. It appears to be just tidying up the language on those sections, but Chip, you will work through those, and I want to move to 1126.
Yeah, I'll come back to you.
There is that one piece of language that's in front of, you can see that up to $2 million. I just need to follow up and find out what's happening there. But okay, so now section B 1126. Let's see.
Chip will follow up on the 2 million.
Okay, this is all part of it. Okay, yep, fine. It's all about the funds not being used, revert. Okay.
All new language.
Yeah, this is all new language.
This is all new. Chip, you've got all of these pieces
Yeah.
to work through.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, I think this now brings us all the way to section B 100.
Okay, so D100 that's the property transfer tax, and let me see, that's on page let me see, I'm looking at it.
I've got a question. There's no C sections, right? We don't need any C sections.
None. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I noticed that the other day too. No C sections.
Okay, so now D100. This is all property transfer tax. This has to do with the VHCB change or not?
And they took out, okay, so you do see that strike out. The administration, when they gave us this bill, they had a notation in there referencing the one-time 3% reduction to the base appropriation. And the Senate just struck that language.
Is that for VHCB? Yes?
Yes, it is.
And so they
Put that in.
they reinstated the 3%?
No, I think they're just not. No, I think what they're doing is they're just not including that reference in the language. They're just not saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're just not referring to it.
Didn't we want?
We took it out.
Or we put it in saying, we just wanted to make sure that 3% haircut that they have doesn't become a base cut.
Okay, so I might be wrong on this. I thought the
You're never
administration
wrong,
had-
Marie. You're never wrong.
Oh,
You're-
no. Oh, my God. Don't
Okay.
say that. Okay, so in any case, it was at one point, it was in the bill and now it's being taken out. How's that?
I remember the conversation. We had a conversation around this that we really identified that these were a one-time 3%. But if you think we kind of carved out VHCB, where we also see this 3% across many other areas, and I don't believe we've been consistent with the language throughout the bill. And so we may choose.
That's right. It was added by the House. You're right.
Yeah,
That
we
was-
added that piece.
Yes. Yep.
But we only did it for this one piece. We didn't do it for the arts or for any of those other sections where we saw the 3%.
And then you also see I'm sorry.
Just a second, Maria, Chip has a quick question.
Well, all of that sounds familiar, but the language doesn't work as it is if we just strike that out, does it? Because it says that appropriation, that amount reflects the 1.5 million reduction and a one-time 3% reduction. So if that was accurate before, if you take that out there, the language doesn't work, does it?
Well, the 3% reduction is there even if it's not in the language.
Right.
We just wanted to emphasize it was one time in nature. We didn't need.
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm saying is the language that we had said the appropriation of 10,580,... reflects the $1.5 million reduction and a one-time 3% reduction. So if you strike out a one-time 3% reduction, that number, 10.5 million is probably not accurate anymore. Right.
We're still doing the 3% reduction. The 3% reduction is still happening, whether the language is there or not.
I get it, and I won't press it any further. I just don't, either the language was misleading before, I think, or is inaccurate now, but that's as long as the numbers work out at the end of the day.
So I think that one point that could be made here is that we notwithstand the underlying formula every year. And so the amount that they get can vary from year to year, right? The 10.58. But the 1.5 million language has been in there for several years just because that's the amount of money that's being used to pay off the housing bond. And so we wanted everybody to be really clear on that particular piece of it. And I do understand what you're,
Okay.
making.
Maria, we're notwithstanding the base every year, so the 3%
Exactly.
is really kind of.
Perfect. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. But then I want to point out that you did add that phrase and the addition of 100,000 to support the cost of technical assistance for writing grants. So that remains here. Okay.
Mary, you had a question or comment?
A comment. I notwithstanding that we notwithstand every year, that phrase you either have to say the 1.5 and one-time 3% reduction, or you take out both portions of that phrase for that to be a logical statement. That's what Chip was saying. I'm just saying it in a different way.
Okay, hey, Dave, this is your section, and I want you to work on how that should read. And talk with Mary, talk with Chip, and just figure out which pieces have to be reflected or not reflected. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mary, I didn't mean to shut that down. I just want to move on. I think we'll
Right.
talk forever about it.
Okay.
Okay, let's keep going. And I think we can go quite a section now. Maria, where's the next piece?
So on page, there's just a really small technical change. Let me see. On page 77, I think this was part of the governor's technical amendments, maybe not, but it's just, the words following and being they were added.
Just makes it easier to read.
Yeah. So I think those are just technical. Unless you want to spend more time on it, we can.
So
Close it.
let's close those off unless there's questions. But what section, can you tell me the section number so I can, what section?
Okay, that is section, yikes.
Can you go back up on, so I can find the section number?
D, it's part of D101 and then A, let's see, A.
Okay. They're both technical. That's
E,
all. Let's just
yes.
close it off then.
Yes. Yep.
It's page 64 on your document.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep, there it is. Okay, let's just check all of those off. And 102, there was nothing. So the next section that there is something in.
Okay, it's the next section, Teresa, is page 82.
Is that
And
the transportation piece?
yes, that is.
Yeah, what's that about?
Okay, that's a good question. Excellent question. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just gonna have to get it for you.
That's all right. I just flagged it too. I had no idea. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's
Yeah, I have that flagged as well. I should have asked that before today, but.
Okay, so we'll leave that open, and Bob, that is part of Bob's transportation. Leah, you're going to follow up on that?
I'm going, yes, I will follow up. The next change, Teresa's on page 84. This is also a technical change. We had there. That just wasn't necessary, that second title, because we're already referencing the statute that's being, it just wasn't, we just didn't need that green part. So it's being taken out.
Okay, Bob has his hand up. Bob?
I got a kind of a question. I've been over on the bill in my email. And when I'm on Zoom doing that, do you know I'm here? I mean, does my picture show up?
a
Can
great
anybody hear
question,
me?
Bob. I was
Well,
wondering
yeah,
that
just
the other
now.
day. Yeah.
We see you now, Bob.
Well, I was talking with you folks, but there was about 100 other people talking and nobody acknowledged me. I said, well, maybe they don't know I'm here. But so I just like to know if
Probably
you
were muted.
know that I'm here when I'm really here and may not know that I'm not here.
Now we know you're here. We see your sweet smiling face.
But I'm going back to the email.
You're going back to where?
His
I
email.
go to my email to read to follow the bill through.
Oh, yeah, but we still, you're here. It just, I can go back and read emails too, and I can see that you're still here.
You can see that I'm still here when I'm reading not my
But he-
email. Yeah, it is an email. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can click off, and I've been going back and reading emails and stuff as we're on here. You can still see me. It's only.
Can you hear me?
Not if you're on mute. So you want to make sure you're always on mute. So if you're on
Right.
mute, and you may want to take your video off.
Take your
And-
video off. Yeah.
And it keeps you as a placeholder here, but you can be doing what else you need to be doing as well.
Okay. Yep. Good. I'm going back to my email. See ya. I'll be on.
So let's go to the next one, which is
Yes.
E 100.2.
Yes, okay, so on page 85. And this is just a technical amendment. This was the position pilot language. So we needed to do, we had to put the whole string of times that we've amended this language. So this truly is a technical amendment, and
Okay,
that's all I
Mary,
have to say.
you hear that, Mary?
So we're missing the date that the pilot expires, which is fine by me, but we had a date certain in there. And I don't see it now, Maria.
Okay, so there, July 1, 2021.
Oh, I looked
Right here.
for it.
It's
Never mind.
Yeah, no, it's, you know what, sometimes this language it's just a lot, there's a lot of it. Let's just say
Yep.
that.
Yep, thanks.
Okay,
Okay, so
Okay.
we can check off, that's a technical change, E 100.2, we can check off. And I would like to stop right here and take a quick 5 to 10 minute break. If the committee doesn't mind, and we'll pick up with tax and all the and the other.
Thank you, Madam Chair, because the next 6 of them are all my budgets.
Okay, let's take a 5 or 10-minute break. What time is it? It is 11:02. Let's come back at 11. Is 11:10 enough, or do you want 11:15?
11:15.
15.
11:15. Okay, I'll see you all at 11:15.
Okay, I'm gonna stop live and we'll go back on when you come back.